Hey guys, welcome to a brand new update video. This week we will be discussing the changes made between version 0.2 and version 0.3 pre-release 1. So version 0.3 pre-release 1 is the current version of the game that we have now reached. It's essentially the fully complete menuing support as of the moment, and it includes all of the basic features of the menu, such as your options, your languages, everything like that. And it's a good starting point before we start the actual networking and game client work in the next week. So without further ado, we have lots of changes to unpack between the two versions. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, before we actually start the game, let's talk about some of the technical and more engine-based features that were made between the versions. The biggest technical change was the difference between the compiler versions. So previously we were using GCC 4.3.5, which was the PSP compatible version, which supported the C++ 2003 standard. Currently we have updated the compiler using Top Secrets project to C++ 2017 standard, which is a 14-year jump in technology. What this allows us to do is to better capitalize upon newer and more modern features, memory safety, various different features like that, which allow us to make it perform better both on the CPU side and on the memory side. With this in mind, we have updated some of the files within the engine, though most of them remain still stuck to the C++ 2003 standard. We have updated the audio manager to now be a much more abstract system, which allows you to pretty much just play a sound. What this allows us to do in the future is that we can change things to be able to play 3D positional audio and other sorts of effects like that with a more basic and less tailored audio manager. In the same stride, we also have changes to the texturing system and the sprite system, some of which were actually started in version 0.2, such as being able to make them as objects, things like that. But now the entire project uses the objects instead of the old texture manager, which allows us to better manipulate the images in memory. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start the game. So what you'll see, of course, is the Mojang logo. This is very reminiscent of the way that Minecraft Java Edition starts. And you'll see that because of a new logo class that we've created, we are now able to have this sort of faded in transition. Now, of course, you're seeing this brand new menu, which looks exactly like Minecraft Java Edition as of version 1.12.2. And this is intentional. As of version 0.3 and 0.3 pre-releases, Minecraft on the PSP is changing forever. It's no longer just going to be a clone, a one-off, some sort of game that we're just trying to create to simulate the exact same way that Minecraft is. What we're going to be doing is going for feature exact and one-to-one port to the PlayStation Portable for Minecraft. And what this means is that our data structures, everything is the exact same as Mojang. Now, to address some of these concerns, I will be adding in the future a launcher to the game. Now, this launcher is going to basically be able to verify your account, make sure that you actually own the Java edition of the game before you can actually start and play the game. Now, that's a pretty big feature, and that might take some time to roll out. And that might not be available for version 0.3, but it should be in the near future something that's a big feature, because I am concerned about, obviously, copyright and stuff like that, and I never want this project to really end like that. So, in order to appease Mojang and to hopefully avoid any sort of lawsuit, anything like that, I would rather have it so that if you actually own the game, the Java edition, you can play the Java edition port. That's a very logical feature to have be the same. For example, if you own Java Edition, you're able to play on Mac, Windows, Linux. You can choose whichever one that you want to be choosing. So, therefore, add the PSP to that list of platforms for the same exact price. And I feel that that's a better suited way to fix the issues that are still ongoing between copyright disputes, stuff like that. Now, I haven't gotten any specific copyright disputes or anything like that yet. I haven't gotten personally notified of anything to that extent, but I am trying to avoid that as long as possible. So let's actually look at the menu system now that that little notification is over. Let's talk about this menu. So one of the first things that we can do here is that we can look ahead and we can see the background panorama. Now, the background panorama is the exact same as the Minecraft background panorama, but it's had a blur pre-applied to it, which means that at some of these corners it looks a little glitchy, but for the most part it is functional and it looks about the same. There isn't too much difference between the two, and it shouldn't really matter too much. The front, of course, always looks like the version 1.12.2. It's got all the same text, and it has translated text. The reason that the font doesn't look so good is that we don't have the actual Minecraft fonts. We don't have Minecraft fonts that would support every language that we are trying to support. So for now, we are just going to use the PSP's default fonts in order to display text to the screen. Now, what this allows us to write language translation features. So if you go down to the little language options here, or you could go into the options menu, but I'll save that for later. If you go into the little language options icon over here, you can go click on it, and you can go ahead and select from this giant list of languages that are supported in the game. There are 55 languages supported. Of course, a lot of this is variations of the same language, so that is also to be counted. However, it supports all of the major languages, which I think will be necessary and important in the future of this game. If there are any more that can be added without necessarily having to change too much, I will add them at the request of users who want it in their language. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be talking about is that we're actually going to go ahead and go back out into the options menu. And if we go into the options menu, what you can see is that we have all the option settings. Also, this of course looks like the Minecraft Java edition. That's exactly what we're going for. Congratulations, you noticed it. Anyways, aside from a little bit of joking sarcasm there, we're going to go ahead and look at some of these options menus, and you'll note that they're all pretty much the same as Minecraft Java edition. Some of the features, of course, are not changeable. Some of the things don't make sense to be changed, and some features are not going to be exactly available. You can't necessarily go inside and look at them. For example, the controls. The control scheme is pretty much going to be basically the same on every PSP, just for the ease of use and basically being able to do different button combos to open the inventory, to open the chat, things like that. Having features like that is pretty important to me, as it means that you're actually able to play the game in the same way across all of the consoles. So as we go back to the title screen, we are able to actually click on the multiplayer options, but not single player or Minecraft realms. And the reason for this is that the multiplayer is going to be worked on before the single player, and single player is currently disabled for this version of the game because it is unstable on the new compiler. So currently you can go inside of the multiplayer menu and just look at these options. There hasn't been anything really added to them, as next week starts the beginning of development for the game client and for all of the networking options. With this in mind, we can go ahead and exit out, and let's have a quick talk about version 0.3. So version 0.3, as I said in my last video, is going to be the main game client. It's going to be networking only, and it's really only going to be playable on the PSP. Now, yes, PPSSPP has a networking mode, and it allows you to actually connect to other servers and stuff like that. And currently, I am not sure of how far developed that is. It says it's in a beta, so being able to actually work on a network and to actually be able to play it on a network on the emulator is a big maybe. It really depends on how well and how fully fleshed out the system actually is. With that in mind, of course, it will always work on the PlayStation Portable. That is the main idea of everything here, is that it works on actual hardware. I make sure that everything is tested and actually works. And if it doesn't actually work, or I miss something in my testing, I will always go back and hot patch something or hot fix something as soon as I can find the solution to whatever strange error or programming mistake has been made. Continuing on this conversation, we're also going to be talking about the future. So version 0.3, of course, as I stated, is going to be the client only. So what does that mean? That means that you can join any multiplayer game, and that you should be able to play at least a playable version of the game. It might not be fully feature complete yet, and it might not be 100%, but you will be able to play it as if you were playing on an actual Minecraft server. And this is going to be how version 0.3 and a few updates after that, I'm not sure how many, of course, will be able to be played. Because currently, the main idea of what this is that we are trying to create the client. We're trying to create the side that shows everything to the screen, draws things, does stuff like that. It's what interprets data and what puts out an output to your screen. Now, what happens after this, once we get done with the client, is that we'll be able to write an internal server, which is the same way that Minecraft does it, so that we can be able to play the game offline. Now, the reason I wanted to do one first versus the other one is I wanted the game to be playable as soon as possible, alongside the fact that writing a server, you're just dealing with a bunch of data. You don't know what is going to be spit out. If we work on both of them at the same time, it's going to really slow down the game because we're working on both creating a networking client and a networked client and a game rendering client. And we're also going to be working on creating a server and a event bus between that and the server. So, obviously, it's better to focus on one thing in order to get that done first. And I want the transition to be as smooth as it can be as possible. So that you can still continue to play the game, even in its new form. Now, with that, I realized that there's a lot of people who want to play single player, and I think Luca is probably the most outspoken person in the comment section about that. And one of the things that I was looking into, and what I still am asking for, is would people be alright if we had a version 0.2.1 or something like that? Version 0.2 in a way that we can continue to update it and continue to fix or even add more features to the game without while still working on the game client. And if we did that, how many people would actually be excited about that and would actually play it, for example? Because if you go onto GitHub, you cannot actually see the statistics of what releases are downloaded and how often they are being downloaded as. So that's why I am asking, so that I can see who really wants this feature. If it's only 1 or 2 people who want it, and as of our current audience size, 10 to 15 people who want to be able to play online, as much as I want to keep the 1 or 2 people from leaving, I would obviously have to satisfy the crowd before I could satisfy the individuals. And that's sort of my perspective on this issue so far. Continue to leave your comments and discuss in the comments below, as you have been doing in the last video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you stayed until the end to see this. Good job for doing that. Please like if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, and comment, of course, to continue our discussion. I hope you guys all have a great day and a great future week, and I will be here next week with some new changes to the networking client. With